question to Brandon Vogel about Emmett Johnson of why does it at least seem that we're not ready to fully embrace him as RB1 or as the guy that you'd be okay with if he takes over as number one running back. He's getting the majority of the carries, and he's the one that is going to be Nebraska's, I don't even know if you can call it workhorse right now, because I just don't know if they're going to have the old traditional workhorse running back. And so as you were asking that question, I immediately thought of why I think at least myself, maybe others feel this way, maybe they don't, would be sort of reluctant to go all in. And I think some of that has to do with Dante Dowdell. Because there was for me personally, it was, okay, Dante Dowdell is going to represent the type of running back that Nebraska can get a lot more use out of. And then you've got other guys like an Emmett, reinforcements, Gabe Ervin, Ramir, you can use them in different ways, but you have the one feature piece of that backfield that is going to be on the field the majority of the time. I think it has nothing to do with Emmett Johnson. I think the Emmett Johnson part of it is actually was trending in the right direction at the end of last year, where people were thinking, yeah, okay, good for him. He got his opportunity because a bunch of guys went down. And for the most part, he did pretty well. He made the most of it. So everything that he's now preparing for and trying to hold on to that spot, I think actually should be kind of exciting. And I know Brandon mentioned maybe the lack of explosive runs has people maybe not as excited. But I look at this entire running back room because Dante Dowdell's best run in the spring game still didn't wow me. Still wasn't electric to where you're like, damn, okay, I get it. I see where there was major separation and the guy can absolutely dart down the sideline when he gets to that second level or can cut up, make guys miss, and then he's gone. I don't know if that guy even exists, but I do think part of the reluctance is I think there was a lot of hope that Dante Dowdell will be that guy. And now I think you're more, not you personally, but I think people are now more questioning where will Dante Dowdell fit in all of that mix? Because I know personally, and I don't mean to pile on him, but it just kind of gets to this because I think he gets brought up a lot when it comes to Nebraska's depth at running back, and that is Gabe Ervin. I just don't, and now coming off of a hip injury, I just don't know what you can truly expect out of Gabe Ervin. And he's another guy that he can give you some tough runs. He can get to the second level, but I don't know if there's that explosiveness with him. I think he's a fine running back. I just don't know if he is that difference maker. Is Quentin Ives in more the position that Emmett Johnson was a year ago? We don't know a lot about him. Ramir, it's always an interesting conversation, but the Dante Dowdell part of that question, I think, at least that's from my point of view, is why people maybe aren't ready to embrace Emmett Johnson. If he was named today, hey, he's our number one running back, that's the guy we're going to be rolling with for the majority of the carries, at least going into the UTEP game, why everybody be like, huh. Not necessarily like, all right, good, yeah, I'm good with that, but not like, oh, crap, we're screwed. But I think it's more of a, huh, okay. So what happened to Dante Dowdell? And so that's, it's. I don't think it has anything to do with Emmett Johnson, though, is what I'm saying.
I don't think Dowdell was brought in here to be the number one guy. I think he was brought in here to compete for the number one job. And that's on him if he doesn't grab the number one job.
Sure, absolutely.
So I've changed completely of looking at running backs. And I'm going to be Moneyball. And I'm going to give you a boring answer because I think there's going to be an odd man out, but there's two guys that haven't played a lot of football because they're injury prone.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's honesty. Gabe Ervin, Ramir Johnson. When they're on the field and they're at their height, there's a lot of things to like there, but they haven't been able to put a full season together health-wise. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to ride or die with somebody that I can't trust that's going to be there for 12 games, and especially when the schedule gets tougher later in the year and you need a battering ram. But you could also play the load management game, knowing that with a guy like Gabe Ervin. Is Gabe Ervin more important to you in November than he is in September and October? But I'm going to be Moneyball here, okay? You're a big fan of Moneyball?
Love it.
Remember when Brad Pitt, playing the role of Billy Bean, sat down with all the scouts and they were talking about how to replace Johnny Damon
and
Giambi?
Yep.
and they're like, we don't need one guy. We need 3 guys to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know if they said 3, but I'm going to say 3. This is how I look at Nebraska's running backs this year. They need 3 guys to combine for 1,600 yards rushing. They need one guy to get 650. They need another guy to get 600. Then they need another guy to get 350. And then they need those 3 guys to all have 25 or more catches out of the backfield. If you give me that, Nebraska, we're not going to talk about who is running back number 1. And honestly, running back number 1 may change game to game at Nebraska. But give me 3 guys to get you to 1,600 yards rushing out of the running back position. And then give me 3 guys that can catch 70 passes out of the backfield. And I'm good. And I think Nebraska's in a good spot. And I don't care who they are. Just find me 3 guys that can do that. And one guy that is going to be at the top. And I think the guy that leads Nebraska in rushing, the second guy, maybe less than 100 yards away from that.
It makes the most sense when you do look at, I think, how this how this group is built. Because I would say from an explosive standpoint, I still like probably the most I've seen out of Emmett Johnson. And I think that what you're saying does make sense too. And I think that's more of college football anymore, where you're going to get a couple of programs that are going to have a guy that could be a 20 plus carry type of person. But we've talked about the evolution of the running back position now in 2024, that your ability to also, like you said, you mentioned the catching part of it, is going to be a big part of what offenses want to do right now. I compared it to, is running back turning into the new cool, how tight end evolved. How tight end, you weren't just an inline blocker, but then you were catching passes, and now all of a sudden tight end is a pretty damn cool and popular position because there's a lot of flexibility on how you can be used. I do wonder if that's where we're going with running back. That's why I do think that in college football, what you're laying out right there for Nebraska is probably going to become more common, whether you're a team that's a contender or not, of the running back position. And hey, maybe that's good for running backs going to the NFL. Maybe that's good for we always talk about the shelf life of a running back and how they get devalued so much. But maybe when you do have the ability to do things in the passing game on top of the carries and limiting your carries and that workload, that helps you out. Think
about it this way. Does Nebraska have a guy that you would confidently say, man, give that guy 200 carries and then get out the way?
No, I
Nobody
do not.
that's built for 200 carries. So remember Braylon Allen, who suffered, he got banged up last year.
Mm-hmm.
He was at 181. That was his most carries. There is no Ollie Gordon or Cody Schrader or Frank Gore Jr. on Nebraska's roster. So that's fine. That's fine. The running back position is being devalued across football. It's still important, but now it is, man, what Roger Craig was doing was kind of what fit New Day football. That's why I say 3 to get to 1,600, 3 to get to 75 catches. Now, you might have to have 4 to get to 75 catches, but get ready because you have a quarterback that can throw a pass out of the backfield on a screen. Nebraska's running backs are going to be required to catch the football.
Yeah,
and there would, even more so in my opinion, than 3 running backs combining for 1,600 yards. If you got 3 running backs or 4 running backs in Nebraska that got anywhere near a combined 70 catches, oh my God, what would that do for that offense? I might be way on the high end of saying that number.
Yeah,
I feel pretty confident about the 1,600. The catches might be more, but I just think Nebraska's going to throw to guys out of the backfield more. They have options all over the place. But you look at who is here and how they're recruiting. Guys got to be able to catch the football. Parker, who committed back in June, he can catch the football out of the backfield. And you had to finally have a quarterback that can hit a guy out of the backfield, and it's not just you hit him, it's 4 yards, and they go down.
Yes.
You hit him, and you hit them in stride where they go from 4 to 8 to 9 yards on a reception or even more.
Well, and it's okay, good point, because we think about the running backs and again, this goes back to, I think, what you see in college football, where what quarterbacks are doing, being more advanced when it comes to throwing the football, being athletes that can now throw the football, not just being an athlete that is going to be a one-trick pony, whether he can be a pocket passer or be a guy that can can run with the football, but making good athletic decisions, being able to extend plays, being able to have confidence in your offensive line that when you do, even if you're checking down to a running back, this goes back to the simplicity of what Nebraska needs out of the passing game, of accuracy, getting guys in space, and really being able to utilize the running backs in that way. That was the one big thing about Ramir Johnson that Matt Rule talked about. We saw too in that 2021 season of being able to utilize a guy getting out on the flat, getting in a wheel route, and being able to hit him where he beats a linebacker, he's down the sideline, then away he goes, uses his speed. Getting the ball there accurately, big part of that. You couldn't do that last year. You just couldn't with the quarterbacks that you had.